it's a life-changing experience compared to operating a skid steer with just a lap belt. This should be standard equipment, and I really don't know why it's not. So you're tired of being thrown around like a rag doll and you're ready for a 4 or 5 point harness in your skid steer, huh? Well, in this video, I'm going to try to show you in depth how I installed a 4-point harness in the ASV RT-135. Now this should work for pretty much any ASV or any skid steer that's got a lap belt in it, because this, all I'm really doing is adding this shoulder belt. So the lap belt is actually going to bolt in where the original lap belt bolted in. Then we've got this 4-point, which means we've got a shoulder belt going over each shoulder, giving us 2 more points for a total of 4. We've got a buckle up here at the chest. That holds our, that helps hold our shoulder belt together. And then we've got your standard seatbelt buckle down here. Now I can say after running this for a couple dozen hours, this thing is life-changing. I mean, you can cinch yourself down pretty much as tight as you want to the point you can't even turn around to look behind you. It's saved my head from going up into that pesky light switch several times already, so that saved my head from getting cut up more. And you know, even without the lap bar, there's nowhere for me to really move. So if I hit a bump or I stop suddenly, there's nowhere for me to move. So the big thing about putting it in this ASV is this is an air ride seat. So you cannot clamp your safety belts anywhere to the cab or the frame. It has to be to the part of the seat that articulates. Because as you can see, the seat's going to move up and down, so your belt has to move up and down with it. Otherwise, if you would air your seat up and your belt was mounted to the floor or the cab, it would actually squish you as your seat went up. And as you hit a bump, that would really also hurt. So we had to mount it to the seat, and I'll show you how to do that. There's some awesome factory mounting locations on the back of the seat. As far as the belt goes, you can do this for under $100. So the belt comes from RJS. You'll want to order it through JEGS. I'll put the info in the description as far as what I ordered. RJS does supply custom length belts, and I'll put in the description what I actually ordered. It's really not at all what I got, because I got way more lap belt adjustment than I can use. And I believe what I'll do is cut this off and then hit it with a torch to try to melt or singe that in so it doesn't fray, because there's parts of this belt, that's what it looks like they do, is they just melt it. I don't really have the capability to fold over and sew a hem on the way they do on their ends. And my guess is they probably just have an extra long set that they stock, because this thing shipped out within a day or 2 of ordering it, even though it was custom length. So the belt's only about $82, and then as you'll see later, there's a belt minder, and that's about $15. So you can do this for under $100. One big concern I know a lot of people have is, do you have to wear the shoulder belt, or can you just wear the lap belt? And yes, you can just wear the lap belt just like that. You just kind of tuck the shoulder belt off to your sides, and away you go. Put your lap bar down. And then if you do want to put the shoulder belt on, now I will typically loosen one side of the lap belt before I get out, and I'll put the shoulder belt on first. This chest buckle is not adjustable, just FYI. And then I'll buckle the lap belt and then pull it this way to tighten it. And they have these kind of little flaps you pull up on if you want to loosen. So you just cinch her down. Now the only thing I'd like to change, and I might at some point, there's this air ride seat switch right here. And that's right in the way of where I would mount my submarine belt mount. So the submarine mount, or the submarine belt, would prevent this from lifting up as I'm tightening it. But since this switch is right here, that submarine belt would have to go right over that switch. So I'm not sure how to mount that, but if I figure it out, I'll let you know. But as far as how this functions for right now, it's a life-changing experience compared to operating a skid steer with just a lap belt. This should be standard equipment, and I really don't know why it's not. As far as my shoulders being uncomfortable from having the belt riding on them, I really can't say that I am, but it never hurts to add a little more cushion. So I think I'll look on Amazon for some Velcro. Basically, you can get them for just a seat belt in a car, and it just Velcros over, and it's just a big pad. That'd be nice to add to this. So this is the factory seat belt that comes in the ASV. It's a little confusing at first. It actually has a locking handle, so you'll push this down. That allows you to remove the tension, pull some slack out. You'll connect your seat belt, you'll pull it tight to where you're comfortable, and then you'll actually grip this on the outside and pull it out, and that locks it. So now there's no pulling that tension away. Then when you go to unbuckle it, you push this down, then you can pull the slack out. Took me a while to figure this out. It wasn't real intuitive, because every time I got it tensioned where I wanted it, I would go to buckle it, and pushing it into here, I would actually take the lock off. So every time you buckle it, you got to pull that back out. All right, so here's what a typical race seat with a 4 or 5 point harness is going to look like. So it's going to be a high back seat, which is going to have these holes on the back for the shoulder straps to come through. And these are just going to keep the shoulder straps from moving and falling off the side of the seat. And so that's the problem we have to overcome in the skid steer, because that's just a mid-back seat, and these straps, of course, want to fall off the side. Now on this particular setup, I really like this chest buckle, because that helps hold these together in front of you. So while I'm here, I'll just go ahead and show you how this would be adjusted. So this would go through your lap belt clamp, and you would actually just pull this across your lap. And for these, you'll pull the strap down to tighten it up. If you want to loosen it, you just go like that. So the only reason that this will not be a true bolt-in affair is because we have to keep the shoulder belts together behind the seat, or they will fall off. So to do that, I got this, it's called a belt minder from PRP. It's about 15 bucks. You can get them on Summit Racing. And basically, I had to sew this into position, so it doesn't have to be pretty. You're going to have to use a very heavy duty needle to get through 3 layers of seatbelt material. But all you're doing is holding the belt minder in position vertically, going this way, because it's got sewn loops that you put the seatbelt through. So there's really no other way I could think of to hold the belt minder up, because you want it to rest you know, basically where these holes would be. So that is the only mod you'll have to do to make this bolt in to your ASV. Okay, so to install the shoulder straps, we're going to pull up on this little orange lever. We're going to slide the seat all the way forward. And then on the back left side, we're going to tilt the seat forward with this lever here. Okay, so the only hardware you're going to have to provide is going to be a bolt to go down on the back right for the shoulder strap. So I got a hex bolt, a washer, and a nut. I'm just using what I have laying around that's convenient. So I got a M10 by 20 millimeter long bolt with a washer on the bolt side, and then a hex nut down in here. Now you can see that I've just wedged my 3/16 Allen key on the side, so that I can put a wrench on the hex head and tighten it. And then if I ever need to loosen it, I just put the Allen key on the other side, because there's not enough room to get a wrench on that nut. On this side, there's already pre-existing hardware. There's a button head cap screw right there with a washer. So I just took that out, and that just uses a 3/16 Allen key. So all you really need is a 17mm wrench and a 3/16 Allen key. And I'm just using an M10 bolt. You might be able to get a 1/2-inch bolt to fit in there. I'm not quite sure. The shoulder strap could take a 1/2-inch bolt, but I'm not sure the hole in the seat can take one that big. So here, it's so tight in here, I can't raise my camera up anymore. This is where that belt minder has to rest. So you can see it's going to keep our belt from pulling off the side. And your body's going to help keep it in position too. Because for it to move, both belts would have to move. So that's why we have to have this. So the way I determined where to sew this in was actually, I put all the straps in. Just had this on here loosely. It'd fall down. Tightened my straps up, and then I unbolted them. If you wanted to, you could mark where your tension was and then string them back through here, but it's not that hard just to unbolt them. And then I marked on here with a silver Sharpie my vertical on my shoulder straps, and then my horizontal position on the belt minder, and then I labeled left, and I know that if I'm going to sew this on, the font of everything should be vertical to keep everything aligned. As for the lap belt, you're just using the existing hardware from the original seat belt. So that takes a 19mm wrench to get those off. And once they're installed, you don't have to take them back off. You can just pull the slack out and then string it back in after you get your belt minder sewed on. So it's just going to go back through like that. And I am not joking when I say adding in this 4-point is a life-changing experience from an operator's perspective, because I can control and operate this machine with such a higher degree of confidence now. I'm not worried about my head going into any of the 3 windows or up into the roll bar or the light switch. It's just much less stressful, much more comfortable when you're hitting the bumps and it's catching you, and I'm not having to, flex my upper torso to try to keep myself from moving. I notice kind of my forearms are less sore at the end of the day because, again, I'm not stiffening up or tensing up to try to prevent myself from moving. I'm just letting the lap bar catch me, and I'm just kind of staying limber like a noodle, and it makes a big difference for the operator at the end of a shift when you're really operating this thing on rough terrain and at high speeds, and absolutely worth it. I can't say that enough. If there's one thing you're going to do to modify your ASV or your skid steer for more productivity or safety or comfort, this is the very first thing I would do. So I hope this helps. I know it's kind of a daunting task when you think about adding a 4-point into your skid steer. It looks like it's going to be really complicated, but it's really simple. You're bolting 2 more mounting points on, and that's pretty much it. So I hope you'll give this a try. Remember, order it through Jegs. They won't sell you directly. You do have to order it through Jegs, and tell them that I sent you. See you in our next video.